We are believers and the children of believers. Believing is, it says last week in the Parsha, Ani kel shake esalch lefanav v'yai tomim. The Eibusha says Avram was Tisha B'Tesha Shanim, he was 99 years old, and Hashem tells him that I am Kal Shake, which is the fixer, the story that you're seeing, the maze and the matrix that you're living in. I am that. This is me. I'm the one that is running that show. And Isal Chafana V'Yai Tomim. In other words, Isal Chafana means that Avram went ahead. He understood the goal. He understood the mission. And he kept moving forward. Vayai Tomim, he went with the Tamimis. Most of the time, the way we're used to processing is that it has to make sense. We're trying to understand what the meaning is behind it. And I process that way too. I'm trying to always explain the concept, the depth of the concept, and why is it this way? Why does this process like that? What is intellect? What is das? What is emuna? All that good stuff. But really, there is something that's hidden in plain sight, which is Vayai Tamim means if we understand that everything is a matter of fact. I'll explain that in a minute. Everything is a matter of fact. Everything is a fact of the matter. Fact of the matter. Matter of fact. Fact of the matter means that it's whatever is happening is a fact. Is the fact of the matter. It's not a question of maybe not. Did I do it the right way? Can I do it another way? Did I make the right decision? It's a fact of the matter, which means that this is what it is, because ultimately we are moving beings that are moving. We are progressing. We're evolving. But our evolution is not going forward. Our evolution is going this way, which means that when we're evolving, we're not going forward. I am just evolving in waking up and recognizing that I just am. And just am has layers and layers and layers and layers, which is just being is that I'm making peace with my matzav, and I'm understanding that it's going to be okay, and that everything is for the best, and everything is going to be good, everything is going to work out, and maybe I'm not seeing it, but I'm going to work in another month or a week, or a week or a month or a year. I'm going to understand what the process is, what I'm going through. But ultimately, really, what's happening is that in the process of evolution is that I am waking up to a present moment. I'm waking up to something that just is, and it's a bit, you have to pay a little attention to it, which means that we can go through a whole lifetime. And only at the last moment do we really understand what was happening, what it is that we're having that aha moment, which is because as long as we don't know, that's what keeps the wheel going. As long as I'm still processing something, that's what keeps us still here, which means that there's something that's gravitational, it's something that my soul, my energy is still sticking to, that keeps me. But then as it gets less and less and less, the body gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And then eventually, when the job is done, boom, it lets go. This drops into the ground, and this just is. And that's when we wake up to a moment of presence. I wake up to something that just is, something that is, and from there it goes into to Gan Eden and all this, the different levels. But ultimately, what is my Gan Eden? It's something that you've worked on. It has a different picture. If I do something, a good deed over here, when I'm out of the body, since I'm not processing it in the same way as I would process in the body a good feeling, I'm processing it in an intellectual way. So therefore it looks different. So the scene changes, but my action here is what created that scene. So waking up, and then the tzaddik, the Alter Rebbe said, I don't want your heavens, I want nothing, I want you, which means that I just want to jump into the water and just be. Because he wasn't interested. He had such a developed, profound taste that his food was kind of like, like you have a cigar that's sweet, and then you have a cigar that's really harsh and heavy, and it's an acquired taste. It's like drinking alcohol when you're young, you don't get it, but then as you get older, you like that tasteless burn. That's what gives it the fix. We develop a different taste for our taste buds change. So emuna is ultimately, it's about finding yourself in just being, that everything is just being. Everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Everything is, I am where I need to be. But we can't always live in emuna, because ultimately we need things. The wheel has to turn. Now let's go like this. What keeps the lights on, what keeps the lights moving, is emuna, is what keeps the lights on. Tzaddik v'manaseh yicha, which means that the tzaddik lives in emuna. He lives in a different level. He lives in a place of he lives in a space of just being. He lives in a space of a consciousness that's called emuna. He is betmimas. He understands very fully that everything is going to work out. Everything just is, and that is his job. He can't go anywhere. He has to stay exactly where he's at. The Rebbe never left 770. He was always in the space, and everything was just happening around him with this massive magnetic field. He was just pulling, and things were happening around him while everybody else was running around doing what they had to do. But they were all drawing from that center piece of that, the core of that's called, which is emuna, which is holding on to it. So there's a question that the question is like when Moshe came and asked Hashem, what should I tell them? Who sent me? Right? So Hashem tells him, Eke Asher Eke. It says, Nachman, Eke Asher Eke means that it is on what is going to be. Which means that the thing that keeps the wheel moving is emuna, is what keeps the wheels turning. That's what keeps the light on. Because there is emuna, we're tapping into this space that is not attached to any chain of events. That's stuff that happens because of something else. It's just a level of something that is fully in understanding, which meant we said before, just being present, not evolving not in going forward, progressing forward, but rather evolving in waking up to the presence, which is the tzaddik is already there. But that was before Matan Torah was given, before there was mitzvah. So what Moshe asked, like, what is keeping the wheel turning? What do I tell them? What can I tell them that is going to get their attention? It's not just repeating a story to them. I have to talk to their panemius. I have to talk to their souls. I have to talk to something within them that is going to get their attention. What do I tell them that's going to take them out? That's going to click them, wake them up, reset them, to dust them off, so they can become present to what's going on. So he said, Eke Asher Eke, which means that I am holding my eye on the prize. I am looking at the end result, which is going to be a time that when I give them the Torah, there's going to be emuna. They're going to be in a space where they're going to understand that everything just is, okay? And based on that, I'm making it happen right now. I'm holding that, and then I'm going to pass it on to them. They're going to take over the job from driving through emuna. Which means that ultimately there is two things over here. We have seichel and we have koyach hamadama, and this is where we're struggling. We're struggling a lot with, which is, when is it my imagination, and when is it real? When am I just an imaginary world? And at what point, if I need to think and I need to start creating by imagining something, at what point do I know that I'm just, when is it a reality, and when am I getting stuck in my in fantasy world? So it says Rav Nachman, this is something that I struggled with for a long time, trying to understand, like, where does the buck stop? Where does reality kick in, and where am I stuck in fantasy? So Rav Nachman says like this. He says that Koyach HaMadama is the Behemoth world, is the world that we live in, which means that ultimately there is the us meaning the centerpiece, the piece, the emuna, the piece that is present, whatever that means, present. We're not gonna I'm giving you the main, just being, that just the klal. But to everybody, that is means something else, where you find the space of where you're just aligned and you're in your Zen space. Okay, with then prati is prati. We're just talking about in the klal. And then we have the imaginary thing, which that we're walking around with these big egos, with these big structures that are built on what? Built on my traumas. They're built on they're inflated, they're inflation. They're just out of proportion, just my exaggeration. They're built based on community. That is what inflates, and from that, in other words, there is a wound and there is a pain, and from that starts blowing and building and building and building and expanding, which is all my fantasy, which means that my goals and my failures are based on my traumas, and my traumas meaning that based on what I grew up with and the way I was indoctrinated, that's what my imagination works on, and which is good, because ultimately what I want to do is I want to keep imagining until there's going to be a crack in it and I can come back to my real self, which is, you have to first know where your real self is, right? Just working on your child, on your generational and child trauma, you're not getting anywhere. You're basically feeding, you're nurturing your imagination, your koyach hamadama, but you're not really, what's tachlis, right? How many times do we spin and spin and spin on the same thing in pain and in disappointment? But when am I entering into what's the goal? Where am I going to? When do I actually get into what's the point of all that? When do I meet myself? So he says that is seichel. Seichel is what it melts down the whole thing. It collapses the structure collapses the whole thing. What is seichel? What is seichel? What is seichel built on? Seichel is logic, and that is built on my value system. That is built on how I was. I would say like the highest level of it is the Seres Adibris, like the Ten Commandments, the Asar Mamaris, and they're based on my decency, how a child was raised. And sometimes we don't have that, and that's what we need to go to the coach, to the healer, to help you to recharge you, so you can find your seichel, you can find your value system, you can find your essence, you can find your identity, and then you can start melting and breaking down that very pathetic ego and that broken, shattered imaginary world that we have all built up and that was built for us and that was told that this is where it is. And that is Amalek, pretty much. That's Amalek is Shekar Chabaderech, which is that he constantly keeps inflating something that is not really, that's not the Indian, that's not real, right? It keeps distracting us. So so we have this, we have the imagination, we have the bubble. Lech lecha ma'artzecha, which means that when you're going to leave your artzius, when you're going to leave your chumrius, that's when vayera. You're going to find your spirit. You're going to find, remember that Hashem created us in His image, in His image and with His stamp, which means, Chassidus explains, that even throughout all the struggles that we're going through and throughout all the distractions that we're experiencing, He's created us with His stamp and with His demus, which means, what is Creator's stamp? What is His demus? It's something that can create. It can just reproduce. It reproduces constantly. We have in our mechanism, we have that thing, that throughout everything, yes, I am living in the far horizon. I'm living very far away from where I need to be, but I can always come back to myself and recreate myself. I can reinvent myself. I can restart everything within. And even if it's not literally that I can't really pick myself up and move away and change my business and change my life and change my house, my relationships, but I could change that. I can find that peace within me. And when I find that peace within me, remember something, that the people that we are connected to are directly in connection with us. You can't be connected to somebody in your life when it's not supposed to be there. It's not a mistake. It wouldn't be there because two opposites can't really connect. Two magnets, if it's not clicking, then it's just pushing each other away. And the more they're in conflict with each other, the more they're going to be pushing themselves away. However, there is a magnetic field, but what's in the middle of it is all the distractions. It's all the inflation. So and that's what causes the heaviness and the brokenness and all of this, that, and the other. But when I'm going to find that peace within me, that godliness within me, that can restart, that has the koyach of creation, that has the koyach batsalmu with admusay, which is coming from the highest source, from olav machshava, which is the essence of the essence. We'll keep it simple for now. The essence of the essence. Okay, fine. Yeah, it is the essence of the essence because we're coming from the belly of Creator. Then you're going to reignite. You're going to make new contacts. There's new veins, new intellectual signals that are going out. That doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to make sense because you're going into the highest place, which is called emuna, and emuna is the leap of faith, and it's higher than understanding. That it makes new contacts, new connections, and then within your relationships that you're in, yes, you can stay in the same job, you can stay in the same relationship, but the relationship within your relationship is going to be a complete new relationship, 100% proven. Right? I can't speak for in success in manifestation in massive wealth, but I can speak in success in relationships. I can speak to that, how I've seen people go from not being physically healthy to becoming physically healthy, not being emotionally healthy and becoming emotionally healthy, and the relationships within that space starts changing completely, starts taking on new shapes and new forms. And so like when you're letting go of your chumriyas, then that's when you go into Vayera, you're going to start seeing. And that is what is happening on Shabbos Kodesh. On Shabbos, we're entering in a space of emuna. We're entering in a space, the same space that the Eibusha told Moshe, Ekya Asher Ekya. I'm going based on what is going to be. I can see what's going to be because at the end of the day, as far as Creator is up on that level, there is no past, there is no future, there's only the present moment, and the present moment is the end result is that it's going to click, it's going to come, everything is going to come together. There is absolute alignment, there's shleimus over there. So based on that, I am holding space no matter where you are, while you're in Golos, while you're going through all that, I'm still resting upon them in their unpurified and in all the resistance. I'm still there because I'm seeing the end result, which is I'm present with the end result, okay? And that is what the tzaddik does. The tzaddik, every tzaddik in every generation is holding space from that place, in that level of connection, the ultimate level of shleimus, which everything is connected. He's in that yichud. Shabbos is ma'en olam haba. We're tapping into a place from olam haba. We're tapping into a place that is something that is going to happen, something that when everything is going to be already in perfection, when there's going to be already geula, it's going to be redemption, which is where all the pieces and all the structures are connected to the place of emuna, to the place that everything just is already where it needs to be. But that wasn't fun, because if it just is, then if everything is, if I don't need to do anything, because ultimately it's going to work out, and we're just sitting home being bored. So we're in action, so we can create that even though the neshama was in a high place, but yet by going through this process, we keep zapping and electrocharging the magnetic fields, and the neshama also gets an update because it receives more. It goes into a stronger. It gets recharged, and it gets recharged, and ultimately, when the ego is going to be done, when it's going to be completed, we're going to be in a much higher voltage, a much higher place, because that's ultimately where we need to go. We need to go deeper and deeper within this endless process of Ein Sof. So that is Shabbos. Shabbos is Me'ein Olam Haba. Shabbos is Me'ein Olam Haba, and that is our job. Adam Ein Lava Des Adama. When the world was after everything was done, after 6 days, nothing moved. The plants were ready to go. It was standing right there. Everything was like paused, but everything was ready, but nothing was moving until Adam came into world. When man came into world, he pressed one button and things started moving, and then it went faster and faster and faster. until it went too fast, and then there had to be different reset buttons, the Mabel and Darflugge and Sudaim and all that stuff. And ultimately, we're coming into it. We have the capacity. Not that we have the capacity. We are emuna. We are Shabbos, and we're having Shabbos is a time that we can technically enjoy Shabbos more now than we're going to be enjoying it in 200 years from now, because then it's just going to be, what's the big deal? It's just there. What else? We're going to be in a space and vibration within ourselves, within our nefesh and our energy body. That what else is news? I mean, it's Shabbos. It's Yom Tov every day. But to have it now, who has the first Tesla? Who has the first? Who made the first $1 billion? Who is the first guy that invented that? The inventor? That's the idea. And right now we're in the space where it's not available to the public yet. It's still a commodity. It's still something that is prati. And that means that the power and the appreciation that we can have from that we can do right now is available now. It's a limited time offer. It will expire. And it's the Friedrich Rebbe's words. He said, he's like, deal with your struggle, appreciate your struggle, because soon it's not going to be here anymore. Once the game is over, we're just going to be. And it's going to be a different game. But he said, like, right now, while the struggle is here, cash in on it and just take it to the bank. Don't worry. Understand that everything is going to work out. Everything is going to be okay, because there is a place already that it is okay. There's a place within us that it is okay already. You know that it's all figured out. I know that it's a squeeze right now, but don't get distracted in the squeeze. Don't get distracted in your imaginary world and your koich hamadama and the olam habehema, and the olam habehema, which he walks with his head down. Don't get distracted. Don't get caught up that is the reality. Understand that that's the game. But really the reality is that it's me'ein olam haba. And that is what we're tapping in on Shabbos. And if you're going into Shabbos with that mindset, you can start bringing that into the week, and then you're from your koich hamadama, you're going to be transforming that into seichel, into intellect, into a higher vibration, which is, your struggle may still stay the same. Your relationships may still stay the same, but your relationship within the struggle, your relationship within what's going on over there, within your imagination, is going to be a different relationship. You're going to be already removed from it. You're not in it. You're just operating in it. You're seeing the picture. You're playing 3D Hasidus, 3D chess. You're removed from it, and you're able to see it from a different space. It's a whole different ballgame. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which is also a very, very strong point. Hashem is one, which means that there is God, there is another God, there is not one. Not everybody has access to a God that's one. There are a lot of gods out there is not one. It's in separation. The Shivim Imas, the other nations, their God is in separation. That's why there has to be wars, there has to be conflict, there has to be, because as far as the Nachash is concerned, he sees the world through separation. You say that the Malach HaMavos has his whole body is full of eyes. He sees the world through in separation, and he's trying to distract us too. But we're not afraid. We enter that space. Yaakov went into Mitzrayim. We entered that space. Avraham was there before that, and Sarah was there before that. We already infiltrated that space, that even though you're seeing many eyes, but you know that it's just a spiel. You're here to bring the oneness into all the 1,000 eyes, which is Echad. We have access, Hashem Echad, we have access to Hashem that is one. Which means, V'hayai Tamim means that you're going to solve your problems, Hisalach Lafanai V'hayai Tamim. You're going to solve all your problems by being in Tamimus. How do you say Tamimus? I don't know what's Tamimus. I can't translate right now. To expand it. Tamimus is simplicity. Being vulnerable, just going with it, finding the oneness within you, and then you're gonna our Creator, our God, our Eibishter is Koel D'Mama Daken. It's a very thin, subtle voice. It's not Lo B'Koel, Lo B'Rash, not Lo B'Chaya, Lo B'Koyach, Ki Beruchi Amar Hashem. I'm coming with my spirit. I don't need all that because they're coming with all the big might and all the big muscles, and all you have this Am not chacham v'novin. Just come and it just makes one strategic move and everything changes. I don't need no big muscles. We don't have mass power. We have brain power. That's what it is. Am chacham v'novin. That's what it is, and that's why they can't stand it, because what we're dealing with is, we're not dealing with people, we're dealing with koiches. We're dealing with koiches that it has the masks on as people. So all that, everything that you're seeing in the world, anti this, anti that, that is all you're seeing is dark forces. And what you need to understand is, don't get taken over, carried away by the dark forces. All you need to do is go into your inside, go into your primis, go into your emuna, go into your light force, go into your light. We represent light. You don't need to get carried away with the dark. The dark is their agenda, and they're trying to pull us into that dark, trying to pull us in that you're this and you're that. It's all garbage. Don't get distracted. You need to focus. We need to focus on the present moment. We need to focus on the emuna. We need to focus on Eke Asher Eke Me'ena Olam Haba, Shabbos Me'ena Olam Haba. That's what we need to focus on, and that's what's going to melt it down regardless, because that's where it's heading. You can't stop. Once the light breaks open, you can't stop the water from spreading. You can't stop the salt from melting. You can't stop the coffee from melting. Once you pour the hot water on it, it's just going to melt. It's going to dissolve regardless, and that's what we're dealing with right now. So take a deep breath and tap into your break the heat pack and go into that place and just let it melt away the koyach hamadama, the illusion of that there is separation, because our God is one. He's in oneness, is in simplicity, it's in tmimis, it's halach lafanai. You don't need to understand anything. You just need to be. You don't need to understand anything. The sugar sweetens the coffee. How, what, when, and where, that's a separate story. If you want to become a scientist, you can go a step back and become a scientist, or you can just simply understand that sugar sweetens the coffee. That's the fact. That's just the way it is. We need to go into the light. We need to go into tmimis. We need to go into simplicity. And in Kel Shakai, yes, we're living in a world that is very cryptic and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't line up. But Ani Hashem, Ani Kel Shaka, this is the same God. Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. This is the God of oneness. Deep inside, everything is one. When you're going deep inside, then our job as a soldier, as being in Chayala from Beis David, if you're in that space, you have an obligation to tap into that, not to get distracted and go, play someone else's war. Let them play it the way they want to play it. You got to play your strategic war the way you got to play it. So look, it's going to get more intense and more. It's going to get more intense and more and faster. Not meaning that it's going to get worse and darker. Only to push more and more, because the light is pushing. The light is pushing to the point where it's almost looks like the other forces are coming, but you have to go deeper within yourself in order to absorb that and dissolve that choshech. Have an awesome Shabbos. And okay, remember that you are an emuna box. You have the power. So do what you got to do. L'chaim l'bracha.